Something happened over Iran in March 2026 that most people completely missed. And it tells you more about the state of this war than any press conference ever could. Apache helicopter gunships, confirmed by CENTCOM, flew strike missions inside Iranian airspace. Not F-35s, not B-2 bombers, not some classified stealth platform nobody's ever heard of. The Apache, America's slowest combat aircraft, the loudest thing in the sky, a machine with no stealth shaping, no radar-absorbing coating, and a top-speed that a commercial turboprop could outrun. Iran spent 40 years and billions of dollars building air defense systems designed specifically to kill exactly this kind of target. And the Apache isn't evading, it isn't hiding, it's hunting. The question isn't how that's possible. The question is what it reveals about everything that happened before it got there, everything it gives up. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what the Apache sacrifices just by existing. Every combat aircraft survives by trading one form of energy for another. Speed, altitude, stealth. Pick your currency, pay for your survival. The F-35 trades fuel for a radar cross-section measured in fractions of a square meter. The B-1B trades wing geometry for intercontinental range. Every platform in the sky makes a deal. The Apache trades all of it and gets nothing back on the survivability side. At 145 knots cruise, it doesn't transit a SAM engagement zone. It wanders through one. An F-35 crosses that same airspace in seconds. The Apache lingers for minutes. It can't outrun the missile. It can't outrun the radar track. And it can't climb out of trouble either. Service ceiling sits at 20,000 feet. The S-300 PMU-2 can engage targets at 88,000 feet. The Apache's entire flight envelope, from terrain masking at 200 feet to overwatch at a few thousand, fits inside the bottom quarter of that system's kill zone. There is no altitude where it's safe. And hiding isn't an option either. Every radar works by measuring the frequency shift of reflected signals. A ground vehicle returns one shift. A fixed-wing aircraft returns one shift plus minor vibration noise. But a helicopter rotor returns something no other object on Earth produces. 48 feet of blade disc, where each tip moves toward the radar on one side and away on the other simultaneously. The result is a paired frequency spread so distinctive that radar operators have a name for it, the helicopter flash. No terrain feature replicates it. No ground clutter filter can remove it because it looks like nothing else in existence. The rotor betrays the aircraft on every single sweep. Then there's the heat. 2 turboshaft engines producing roughly 4,000 shaft horsepower pump exhaust into the sky constantly. The infrared suppression system reduces the signature. It doesn't eliminate it. A shoulder-fired IR-guided missile can still see the Apache from miles away. Speed, altitude, radar signature, heat signature, all of it given up. In any environment where the enemy has radar-guided air defenses, that's not a calculated risk. That's a death sentence written in physics. Why suppression isn't enough? There's a distinction most people don't know, and it's the entire explanation for what's happening over Iran right now. 2 acronyms, SEAD and DEAD. Suppression of enemy air defenses and destruction of enemy air defenses. They sound similar. They are completely different. SEAD is temporary. Jam the radar, blind the system, create a window. The SAM goes quiet. Stop jamming and it wakes right back up. SEAD creates an opening, and for fast jets, that's enough. They transit the danger zone in seconds. The window is all they need, but the Apache doesn't transit. It loiters. It needs minutes over a target area, not seconds. For a helicopter, suppression isn't a solution. It's a countdown to the moment the jamming stops. Dead is permanent. The radar isn't blinded. It's gone. The launcher isn't silenced. It's scrapped. The crew isn't confused. They don't exist anymore. Dead doesn't create a window. It creates a graveyard. And the fact that Apache helicopters, not stealth jets, not cruise missiles doing a quick strike and leaving, are loitering freely over Iranian airspace tells you exactly which one happened here. Iran's integrated air defense network wasn't suppressed. It was taken apart, system by system, until there was nothing left to shoot back. What makes it dangerous once the threat is gone? Strip away the air defenses and the Apache stops being a liability and becomes something genuinely terrifying. The reason starts with the dome sitting above the rotor blades, not on the nose, not under the fuselage, above the blades. That placement is the entire tactical concept. The Apache hides behind a ridgeline, a tree line, a building. Only the radar dome peaks above the obstacle. It unmasks for 6 seconds. In that window, the longbow radar scans and classifies up to 256 targets simultaneously, prioritizes the top 16, transmits targeting data, and the helicopter drops back below the ridgeline before the enemy has time to react. Detection range on the legacy system runs about 8 kilometers. The modernized version doubles that to 16. The helicopter sees the battlefield before the battlefield sees it. Then it hands off to the AGM-114L Longbow Hellfire, and here's where the engineering changes everything. Earlier Hellfire variants used a laser seeker. The gunner had to hold a laser on the target from launch all the way through impact. 15 to 20 seconds of exposure where the helicopter had to stay visible, trackable, and killable. The Longbow Hellfire replaced that laser seeker with a millimeter-wave radar seeker built into the missile itself. The gunner fires and the Apache immediately drops back into cover. Exposure time goes from 20 seconds to 0. The missile finds the target on its own. At night, the advantage becomes absolute. The Arrowhead sensor suite gives the crew FLIR, a CCD camera, and a laser designator. 10 times the resolution of the legacy system. The pilot's helmet slaves a separate FLIR to wherever he's looking. The Apache sees in total darkness better than anything on the ground beneath it can see it, and if it does take hits, because in combat, things happen. The airframe was designed to keep flying after absorbing 23mm rounds to critical structures. The cockpit glass isn't glass in any conventional sense. It's a laminated stack of aerospace-grade sheets bonded with polycarbonate interlayers, each layer engineered to absorb a portion of a projectile's energy as it penetrates. The first sheet shatters, converting velocity into fracture energy. The polycarbonate stretches, decelerating the round. The next layer fractures and absorbs more. By the time the projectile reaches the final layer, it's lost enough velocity to stop. Transparent armor, designed to stop small arms that would punch straight through a civilian helicopter windshield without slowing down. 1991, the door breaker. None of this is theoretical. The Apache has already written its doctrine in blood, twice, and the two lessons couldn't be more different. January 17, 1991, 2:38 in the morning. 8 AH-64S and 4 MH-53J Pavlo Pathfinders crossed the Iraqi border at 50 feet under complete radio silence. The mission: destroy 2 early warning radar stations and carve a 20-mile corridor through Iraqi air defenses for F-117 stealth fighters to fly through undetected. The Apaches had no GPS. The Pavlos navigated and dropped infrared chemical lights on the desert floor as markers. The formation followed those lights in total darkness, nap of the earth, for over an hour. At range, the call came through. Party in 10 minutes to target. Hellfire missiles, Hydra 70 rockets, 30 MN chain gun. Both stations destroyed, 100%. 0 losses. 22 minutes before H-hour, the corridor was open. The F-117s flew through. Desert Storm had begun, and the Apache was the first weapon that fired it. That wasn't a coincidence. Task Force Normandy worked because the Apache was the only platform that could do what needed doing: destroy hardened radar stations at low altitude, at night, with precision, in complete silence. The risk was accepted because there was no other option. The equation paid off completely. 2003, when the equation failed. 12 years later, the same airframe nearly got erased from the sky, and the reason had nothing to do with the helicopter itself. March 24, 2003. 31 AH-64Ds launch a deep attack against Republican Guard positions near Karbala. Standard Cold War doctrine: mass helicopters operate independently behind enemy lines, overwhelm the target. Iraqi signals intelligence intercepted cell phone calls tracking the formation's approach. Then the city's power grid went dark, a coordinated signal, and everything opened up at once. ZSU-23 anti-aircraft guns, S-60 cannons, RPG. Small arms from rooftops and windows and alleyways. The sky turned into a wall of fire. Chief Warrant Officers David Williams and Ronald Young were shot down and captured, their images broadcast on Iraqi television within hours. 29 helicopters limped home with bullet holes. Several barely made it back at all. Karbala didn't just prove that helicopters need air defense suppression before they fly. It ended an entire doctrine. The Cold War concept of massed helicopter battalions conducting independent, deep strike operations, gone. After 2003, the Apache was never again treated as a standalone strike weapon. It became one synchronized piece of a larger system: intelligence preparing the battlefield beforehand, artillery suppressing threats before the helicopters arrive, electronic warfare blinding the enemy's sensors, fixed-wing aviation overhead watching everything. Same airframe, completely different equation. Karbala proved that even basic air defenses, machine guns, anti-aircraft cannons, coordinated small arms fire from rooftops, can zero out a helicopter's survival odds the moment the approach is predictable and the suppression is absent. The lesson cost 1 aircraft, 31 damaged, and an entire concept of modern warfare. 3 moments, 1 variable. 3 engagements, same helicopter, 3 completely different outcomes, and all 3 written by the same variable. In 1991, the Apache flew into defended airspace because it had to. It was the doorbreaker, the only tool that could do the job. The risk was calculated and accepted. 0 losses. In 2003, it flew into defended airspace because doctrine said it could. The doctrine was wrong, the suppression was absent, and the equation collapsed. 1 aircraft destroyed, 31 damaged, and entire operational concept abandoned. In 2026, it flies freely because the defenses simply aren't there anymore. It's no longer opening doors or testing doctrine. It's a verdict, confirmation that everything coming before it already won. And the proof doesn't stop at the aircraft itself. Army Apaches are now staging from Navy expeditionary sea bases in the Persian Gulf. Army helicopters operating from Navy ships, targeting coastal positions around the Strait of Hormuz. That level of cross-service integration, that kind of joint complexity built at the tactical level, doesn't happen unless every commander in the chain is certain the air threat is completely neutralized. The logistics of that operation would be indefensible if a single radar-guided SAM could still reach the sea base. The fact that it exists is its own statement. The indicator species. Biologists have a concept called an indicator species, an organism so sensitive to its environment that its presence alone proves the ecosystem is healthy. Remove the pollution and the species returns. The species doesn't clean the water. Its survival is just the proof that someone else already did. The Apache is the indicator species of air superiority. It cannot survive radar-guided SAMs. It cannot survive coordinated anti-aircraft artillery. Its margin against concentrated ground fire is measured in seconds, not minutes. When you see it flying freely, not evading, not hiding behind terrain waiting for an opening, just hunting, it means the predators are gone, not suppressed, not hiding. But the math is that clean. A single operational radar-guided SAM and the Apache is dead. Its presence in uncontested sky is therefore the loudest statement the entire air campaign can make. At $10,500 per flight hour, it's proving that $300 million S-300 batteries are now decorative wreckage. What comes next? Here's where the honest assessment gets uncomfortable. Iran's integrated air defense network was centralized, fixed, and brittle. Exactly the kind of architecture that dead operations were designed to dismantle. It had a central command spine. Cut the spine and the network dies. But the next adversary may have studied this very carefully. Mobile SAM systems that relocate every 20 minutes leave no fixed target for precision strikes. Networked defenses that operate without a central command node don't have a spine to cut. Redundant overlapping systems built specifically to survive what just broke Iran represent a completely different equation. And the Apache fleet isn't getting younger. The AH-64E Guardian is an upgrade, a significant one, but not a new airframe. The oldest Apaches in the inventory trace their structures back to the late 1980s. 3 decades of combat cycles in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and now Iran, accumulating stress on joints and longhorns that were never designed for this kind of sustained operational tempo. Every sortie over Iranian airspace that proves the air war is over also adds hours to airframes that have already given more than anyone planned for. The indicator species metaphor only holds in a broken ecosystem. If the next conflict involves an adversary whose air defenses weren't built to be broken the same way, mobile, distributed, redundant, designed with Karbala and 2026 as the lessons, the Apache won't be hunting, and it won't have the margins to survive finding it out the hard way. The question isn't whether the Apache proves something over Iran. It did, definitively. The question is whether the next theater gives it the same conditions, or teaches it the lesson Karbala did. 23 years later, with far less margin for error. Next time you see footage of a helicopter flying casually over a war zone, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. Not the most advanced aircraft in the sky, not the fastest, not the stealthiest, the most vulnerable, and the fact that it's still flying is the only proof that matters.